Well, hi there. Welcome to Chatti Patti, the show where you, yours, and yours truly chat to some incredible artists and figure out what they're all about. I'm Patti Boo Rae, and today I'm getting on the horn with the incomparable Jo Clifford. Jo is a playwright, performer, proud father and grandmother, church elder, and saint. She is the author of 113 plays, many of which have been translated into many languages and performed all over the world. Most recently, her play Light in the Village, 1992, was performed in Karachi, in Urdu, and in Manila, in Tagalog. She is perhaps best known for her one-woman show, The Gospel According to Jesus, Queen of Heaven, which has been performing regularly since she wrote it in 2009. Recently, she's performed the play in the US of A, in Australia, in the Philippines, as well as in cities all over the UK. She also writes regularly for her Substack, The Light Inside. I am beyond excited to talk to Jo. She is truly a saint of trans performance, and it's an honor to have her on the pod. So without further ado, operator. Hello? This is Patti Boo Rae. Chatti Patti. Jo Clifford, welcome to Chatti Patti. Jo, how do you answer the phone?
How do I answer the phone?
Mm-hmm. Carefully is how you answer the phone.
No, you just say hello. It's lovely to pick one up again.
Take you back?
Yeah.
We're all kind of about the lost art of the phone call here at Chatti Patti, but I keep asking people that question, and they keep saying, I don't even know when I last answered the phone. No one's called me in ages.
Oh my goodness. Well,
and if they do, it's because I owe them money or I'm late.
Well, they're trying to sell shit.
Or they're trying to sell you something. Do you talk on the phone?
When I talk on the phone, I have to sit still. I'm always awestruck by these people that walk along talking on the phone. Like, how do you do that without falling over? And I hate talking in public. You know, there's people that have phone conversation in public. Oh my God, no, I don't want that.
I will say, some people who multitask while they're on the phone, no offense to my mother if she's listening, but they might not be as attentive on the phone call as they think they are.
Well, that's the
thing. I think you can tell when someone's
not listening to you at the other end, you want to come on, you're down whatever the hell you're doing. Just focus. Yeah.
Jo, I'm so delighted to get to chat to you.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
I'm especially excited to ask you, what makes you tick? What is the driving force behind your artistic work, which has changed shape a lot over the years?
You see, I've just come out of a panel session, which has had, well, there were 8 of them altogether, I think, on stage.
Yes.
And I just thought, this is incredible. Because, you see, when I was a child, I was born in 1950, transphobia was, well, it wasn't even a word. It didn't need a word because it was just everywhere. It covered everything. It was all-encompassing. Everybody knew that there were men and there were women, and you know, and there was little me looking in the mirror, not recognizing the boy I saw, trying to make sense of my life on my own, knowing I couldn't talk to anybody about it. So I spent my adolescence feeling that there was not a single person, in the whole world that I could talk to about who I really was. And then I was very lucky to meet someone when I was 21, and we fell in love, and she said, I know there's something very feminine about you, and that's why I like you.
Wow.
And that saved my life. And then we were together for 33 years, and she was a feminist. We made a very strong point of sharing parenthood with our 2 daughters, so we would literally divide the week in half. Boom, boom. So I was my daughter's father. I love being their dad, I still do, and my daughter's mother. We were both there, and they would shout, Mom, Dad, without really caring.
You're like, which
doesn't really matter. Gosh, the happiness of those years. And again, I can remember 1983, 1982, my older daughter pushing her around in a buggy and thinking, I am the only man in this part of Scotland with a child in a buggy. Because you didn't see men with children in buggies in those, so you just did not see it. It was a wonderful thing because it helped me in the whole process of coming out and transitioning. And then in 1997, being here in Newcastle on the Northern Stage, 1998, I was
born.
Well, there you go. That was, I was. Isn't that amazing? You were born. I was 48 years old. And that was the very first time that I performed.
Wow.
Because I was completely blocked as a performer for years and years and years.
But of course you'd been writing.
But I've been writing, I've been writing ever since I was 12 or something, but I've been trying to write novels for years. I wrote a performance called The Night Journey, because I was trying to write plays about trans themes in the 90s, 94, 95. Nobody was doing that then. I became very unfashionable all of a sudden. Nobody wanted to work with me, but there I was, 1997, Northern Stage. And then in 2001, 2002, because I realised if I wanted to write about trans, I was going to have to pay for it, because nobody was going to pay for it. That meant it would have to be a solo show. That meant I would have to perform it because there were no trans performers of any kind. And I remember I did that. It must have been 2002, I think, for the first time in Glasgow and then in Edinburgh. And what I'm saying to you is that there was nothing. When I started, there was nothing. I wrote a play.
No infrastructure,
nothing.
Audience kind of built in around that work.
Nothing. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And then in 2009, when I did Jesus, Queen of Heaven for the first time, again, there were no out trans performers that I knew of. I knew of a couple trans actresses, but they were desperate to stay in stealth. They didn't want to have anything to do with me because they thought that I was going to out them somehow, or being associated with me would be really bad for them. And then there were all those huge protests and all that going on outside. But I never even dreamed that it would be possible to come out. I never dreamed it would be possible to become a trans writer. Just be recognised as a trans writer. I never believed it would be possible to travel the world. And then suddenly to be in this place this weekend with all this happening and these amazing, amazing trans artists on stage talking about projects that, wow, I mean, they're wonderful. They're really wonderful. I want to see every single one of them. And I'm thinking, what is happening here? I could never have dreamed of happening. And here it is happening.
Yes. It must have had its ups and downs.
Well, it triggers stuff. When I was 14, I think it first happened, I got to play girls' parts in school. And oh my God, that's how I really discovered theatre. And that moment, even from the very first rehearsal of just stepping out onto a stage, I felt at home. I felt happy. I felt this is where I belong. But because I was imprisoned in a boys' public school in England, which was the most horrific, and I knew...
Is it as bad as we think?
Oh, I think it's probably worse.
Probably worse.
Probably worse. I think if people had known that I really enjoyed this, being those girls on stage, I was discovering probably the most important part of myself. If people had known that, my life would have been not worth living. I can remember thinking, I've got to stop doing this. I love acting. I want to keep on acting. And so I would go for men's parts and I couldn't act. You see, and then, I mean, it's amazing to be sitting here with you, who, I don't know, born in 1998, fucking hell. And I think if I had been able to do drag in those years, way, way back in the 60s, what a difference that would have made. How much suffering that would have saved me. Years of suffering. And so to see you, it is a wonderful thing. It's absolutely a wonderful thing. And of course, there's an element of regret in that. I'm thinking, do you know, maybe for my 80th birthday, I'll do a drag show.
I think you should. Because how old were you when you did Queen Jesus for the first time? 59?
59.
59. Yeah. That is one thing that's so inspiring to me about you, is that this work, it came, what from the outside might look like quite late in your career, but actually was the start of a whole other career that you've had since then.
You see, how blessed and lucky was I?
Absolutely.
In my late 50s to have that door unopened.
And how brave of you to open it, because, I mean, I know that you weren't necessarily expecting the level of kind of attention and backlash that it received at the time, but still, it's a huge amount of courage.
Well, yeah, that's kind of you to say. So, I mean, we do brave things often because we don't know how dangerous.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
How dangerous it is what we're actually doing. If I'd known all that was going to happen, just as well I didn't.
Yes.
Didn't know that, because maybe I wouldn't have.
But you probably wouldn't change it looking back.
No, I wouldn't change it at all. I'm so proud. So proud of that show. But then I'm very proud. In my bedroom at home, there's a picture of me. I think I must have been about 8 years old. I must have been just about to be sent away to school. And there I am, and I'm holding my little dog, Jack Russell, called Sally, who I love dearly because she was somebody I could hold. She was somebody I could be close to physically. In my family, there was no touching. I mean, my little suit, which I hated wearing, the grey shorts, and yet there I am. And I'm smiling at the camera, not because I really wanted to smile, but because somebody was telling me to smile. Mm-hmm. And I was terrified of that picture because every time I saw a picture of me as a boy in those years, I thought, wait a minute, that's not me. Mm. But it is supposed to, you know, I mean, now we can understand it as whatever it's called, dysphoria. But there was no way, there were no words. There were no words at that time.
All you felt was this strange disidentification with it. Yes.
Yeah. But now, I've given that picture a really nice frame and I put it up on my wall and I think, you brave boy.
Do you see yourself in that image more now than you did at the time?
Yeah. And then my grandson was looking at that picture once. My daughter Bex, his mum said, do you know who that is? And Alex, bless him, said, oh, yeah, that's Grandma when she was a boy. I mean, there's a whole...
How old is he?
Well, he's 13 or something, but then he must have been about 8 or 9. And you just go, there's a whole amazing social change just in that little...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the simplicity of that to a child who could understand it so easily and so intuitively.
Absolutely.
I'm really glad I'm getting to speak to you in particular because I'm not calling you old. Please don't take this the wrong way, but just that...
You can call me old. No, seriously.
An elder in the community. I think it's really good for me and possibly for others to hear you describe this positive, like optimistic movement from being very isolated to now, like you were saying, being here surrounded by all of these trans artists and like celebrating that increased visibility and opportunity. I came of age in many ways at what felt like the apex of that progressive movement for LGBT rights more broadly. And so I think I did take that for granted in some ways. And now what I'm experiencing is like a backsliding and a rolling back on those, what felt like promises to me at the time. Looking back on your life and having been through so much before, what does this feel like? Does it feel different? Does it feel the same? And where do you think we go next?
Well, when it happened, when that judgment came out, I was devastated.
Were you surprised?
Kind of yes and no. Since I first did Jesus, Queen of Heaven, I've had this immense sense of, well, optimism, just like you. I've had a sense that we're all moving in the right direction. And Scotland in particular, which is where I live, Scotland is really trying to become a decent, progressive country. Yeah. And then to suddenly discover us going right back is clearly upsetting. But then when I think about my life, you know, okay, I'm 75. In the last 26 years or something, in your lifetime, this is, in historical terms, this is nothing. You know, 26 years, an incredible amount has happened in 26 years. Just a fundamental shift. It's like, we've had 2 centuries of change all happening in a quarter of a century. And so, of course, there's going to be pushback. Of course, people are going to get freaked out. And in particular, men. If I think about my mum, born in 1910, when she grew up, she had no expectations of ever having a career. She didn't bother to go to further education. She's a very smart woman, but she didn't do any of that because as far as she was concerned, her job was to find a husband, marry him and look after him, keep his house clean, look after his kids, make it possible for him to do his business. In other words, she saw her role as completely subordinate. And then Susie, who I married, she found that just completely crazy, absurd, ridiculous. And nowadays, you know, you wouldn't find a woman outside of a weird kind of Christian birth that there are existing now in the States, but you wouldn't find a woman for whom that was a real, you know, they say no, a woman has a right to better education, to a career, to good pay, which means that women have moved so far forward, whereas men, on the whole, are still stuck. That's just holding on with their fingernails. Somebody like Trump, somebody like Elon Musk, deep down they know they are losing their power. And I mean, I often think these days of Elon Musk, who, you know, hates his trans daughter, thinks he's lost his trans daughter. Silly fool. This is a man who prides himself in his manhood, and yet his life is so awful that the only way he can get through each day is through stupefying himself with ketamine.
Yes. And what really gets me upset is seeing the super rich online. I'm like, what? No, get off of Twitter. Like the things that I would do, like you have so much money, like go do something interesting, at least enjoy it. Like if you're going to be a billionaire, it's such an insult to people who have so little for you to have so much
and just still be so fucking miserable.
And be on social media picking fights with random people who you've never met.
The backlash is very, very vicious. I was looking at the picture of Jeff Bezos and his wife. Oh, the poor love. I mean, the pain she's gone through to get that face, those cheekbones, that nose, those lips.
It's such an interesting thing on the American right at the moment.
Yeah, they're all
Mar-a-Lago face, they call it, which is the like very particular plastic surgery to have that like MAGA look.
Awful.
Look, I'm certainly not opposed to plastic surgery, but if you are going to spend your life trying to prevent trans people from getting surgery,
then it's a little bit, just a little bit strange.
I know. I know. You said that if you were to be a beverage, you would be
caipirinha.
Caipirinha.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
It's a Brazilian drink. You make it out of cachaça, which is a spirit distilled from sugarcane.
I feel like we probably don't have that, or maybe I didn't make it, folks. But you can taste it and tell me.
I'm sure that's going to be lovely. No, you can buy it here, and then there's lime, little lime, hello, that's all been cut up very fine, and you know that kind of minced ice, little bits of ice.
Yeah, sure. So in other words, it looks nothing like this.
Oh no, nothing at all. Oh, is this supposed to be it?
Allegedly.
Oh, I thought this was a cup of tea.
No, it's a caipirinha in theory.
Oh, I beg its pardon.
But it doesn't bear any resemblance to what you just described.
Oh, it's rather good though, isn't it? Whatever it is.
It's very sweet.
The thing about caipirinha is that it is sweet and it's also sour and it's quite innocuous. It's quite pleasant to drink, but it also has this amazing kick to it.
But it should be frozen, like almost a slushy.
It should be really, really cold.
Okay,
and you have to be in Brazil, and we're in Newcastle.
I know that you do have a connection to Brazil.
It's because I love Brazil. It's an amazing country. It's a very violent country. It's a very scary country. It is the country that kills more trans women than anywhere else on earth, apparently. So it's quite a frightening country to be in many ways. But what is wonderful about it is that it is a totally racially mixed country. Every kind of race you can imagine all living together. And there's a lot of racism and all kinds of shit goes on. But the fact that everybody, all these races are mixed, gives an incredible vitality. And the other thing about it is the forest, the rainforest. I mean, Sao Paulo, which is the city I know best, before Sao Paulo was built, it was rainforest. And so you walk along the streets, you know, because there are these amazing trees, incredibly strong trees, pushing their way, and their roots are pushing their way through the concrete and the asphalt.
Wow.
And you know, one day the city will disappear. Will return and the forest will take it over. And just that, the vitality of the earth, the vitality of the soil, the music.
When did you go first?
It must have been about 2011. I can remember these Brazilian women coming to Edinburgh. They wanted to speak to Scottish playwrights. I was very excited for some reason. I didn't quite know why. I must have been attracted to Brazil for a long time. And so I really prepared for the meeting, and I got out my CV on my list of plays and told them about Jesus, Queen of Heaven. And you know, we had a lovely time. And then it all disappeared, as things often do. You're a playwright, you have meetings, and you know, things seem to be happening, and then they don't happen. They just disappear.
Trail away into the mist.
And you go, okay, I'm not going to get hurt by that. I thought, and then all of a sudden I got an invitation to go to Sao Paulo and to go to a place called Curitiba and lead writers' workshops there. And it was, wow, it was just beautiful, actually. I loved the people I met in those workshops. It must have been the following year I sold our house, the house that we brought up all the kids in, because my wife had died then, and I just had to get out of the house. So I had a bit of money left over, and I was able to put it into putting Queen Jesus on in the Fringe, because nobody would take it. Everybody was too scared or something. Yeah, this was my third attempt. There's a church in the West End called St. John's that does a festival of peace and justice or something. And I thought, that's a place for it. And they were all very enthusiastic until the last minute, when they would suddenly say no. And they turned me down 3 times. But this time we had a company, Queen Jesus Productions, and we were determined to do it. And we found a church just down the road with one space left, one slot left at 10:30 at night,
right?
Which was kind of like not a good slot really for Queen Jesus.
Maybe. I don't know, though. I mean, I suppose it depends. Some people at the Fringe, they'll be ending their day. Some people will just be starting their night. But I don't know. I think it's the perfect end to a day or the start to a night.
Well, most people did not agree because we lost all my money. Everything went. I think we had an average audience of 12.5 people a night.
Hey, for Fringe numbers, you could do worse.
You could do worse, so we're not complaining. But the people who came were important people, actually, as it turned out.
Great.
And one of them, at the very last night, this woman came up to me. Because I would stay in costume and I would go out and meet everybody. And she gave me the most enormous hug, tears streaming down her face. And she said, "My name is Natalia Marlowe. I'm from Brazil. I want to put this play on in Brazil." Well, she didn't say I want to, she said I'm going to. So I gave her a copy and she stayed up all night and did the first draft.
Wow. Of a translation.
Of the translation. Yeah. And I love Natalia, I still do. And eventually it took a long time to put the show on in Portuguese. She found this amazing, amazing actress called Renata Carvalho. So charismatic, so beautiful. And that show, I was able to do it in English, and that made it possible. I think that opened the way for them to put it on in Portuguese. Very, very dangerous.
Yes.
Very first performances, it was a place called Londrina. All the churches got together to try and ban it. They forced them to change their venue. There was a guy walking up and down outside the dressing room, carrying a gun, saying, "I'm going to shoot the faggot," playing Jesus.
How did she get in?
Well, what happened was it was the force of people. He was a coward because these people always are cowards. And because they'd had to change the venue at the last minute and they couldn't tell anybody, they arranged that everybody would meet outside the original venue and then there would be a procession to the new place, which is just 200 yards down the road. And there, outside the old venue, was a group of pregnant women and women with young children. And they said, "We know we can't get in because all the tickets have been sold out for ages, but we're here to form a circle of protection around Renata."
Wow.
And that's what they did as they processed to the new theatre. And it still moves me to think about that. Think about the courage of those women. Because wherever Renata did the show, there would be haters, people that did everything in their power to frighten her from performing it. And every show would be sold out within an hour or two of the tickets being, and there would be queues all around the block, sometimes twice around the block. And she performed that show, she and Natalia and their team, they took it all around all the big festivals in Brazil for 3 years. Going to see that show became a political statement. So it became a statement for trans rights, against censorship, against the right-wing forces that were already gaining strength in the country that eventually led to Bolsonaro being president. It was a very, very strong political act. And they now say that that show changed Brazilian theatre forever. It was never the same again. And Renata went on to form a group of trans theatre and film artists to make sure that when there were trans parts, they were played by trans women or trans men, and there was going to be no trans fake.
Wait, are we still doing that?
We're still doing that.
Wait, that is astonishing to me.
Well, I mean, and then again, you know that, gosh, lovely Emma Franklin, who is here, is one of the writers on Hollyoaks, and there's a whole beautiful storyline that she's responsible for about a trans character being played by a trans actress. So it's mixed up situation. But Renata really transformed Brazilian theatre.
Wow.
And she's now famous. She's on film all the time. She has her own show that's gone all the way around the world. And before that, she was thinking, "Oh God, I'm going to have to go back to sex work." And then she got the part with Jesus. And I'm so proud of all that. I'm so proud of the fact that the work I did has had such a profound effect on Brazilian society. But then being here and seeing all these amazing, courageous, gifted trans artists and thinking, when I started, there was nobody. I think, okay, that's partly because of me. I'm partly responsible for this, for opening that particular door for other people.
Absolutely.
And it makes me very proud.
Yes. Thank you.
Hello, operator. Can you put me through to the next segment?
What grinds your gears, if I may ask? Is there anything that's been getting under your skin lately?
Well, I tell you what really pissed me off just in that meeting this morning.
Tell me.
I did a show in the Traverse called Eve that was autobiographical. It was a story of my life. And it was supposed to be in a double bill with a show called Adam, but actually Adam, which was a show about the trans man, was in Traverse 1, which was the big space. Adam, I should say, was very heteronormative. And Eve, the story of the trans woman, the queer story, was in Travers 2, and that really pissed me off. But
that is infuriating.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
so Adam was a trans man, but just a much more kind of heteronormative story performance as a piece.
Yeah.
I feel like that's quite an obvious oversight. Someone maybe should have clocked that.
well,
as
so
they
I
were programming.
did tell them, but of course they took no notice of that. But for that, and I can't remember what year it was, they changed the loos so that they were all gender neutral.
Uh-huh.
And I have just learned that they have reverted. Yeah, your face says it all. They have reverted to men's and women's, and it makes me so angry. The cowardice of that
That is actually shocking.
makes me so angry.
I've been in those toilets. They were perfectly functional before. They're just fine. And do you think they're just preemptively nervous about any kind of pushback they're going to get in light of recent events?
You see, the Scottish Parliament decided that loos were now going to be segregated and only biological. I mean, it's all shit. The cowardice,
It's absurd as well.
the bad faith, the prejudice, the ridiculous nature of this. It just is horrendous. It's awful. And, these people, I've forgotten her name, no, I haven't, J.K. Rowling, who is trans, and they are denying it.
I don't want to give JK more airtime on this show. She has enough in the world. But it feels like we've been in this world of J.K. Rowling leading the crusade against trans rights for so long, but it hasn't been that long. It's only, was it 2021?
But you see, the reason it's so obsessive is because, I know all this because I spent a long time in my life, not so much denying I was trans, but it was impossible for me to be a woman. Mm-hmm. I didn't need to transition. I could just keep on living as a man. And I worked really hard because I wanted to be a good husband. I wanted to be a good father. And of course, they all knew, my family all knew, but I tried so hard to get counseling, to argue myself. But of course, the more you deny who you are and the more you deny what you need to do, the worse it becomes. Queen Jesus says.
Yes. What does Queen Jesus have to say on the subject?
Queen Jesus says, the queendom, it's like a mustard seed. It's tiny, tiny. And you can try and hide it if you like. But if you do, it will grow inside you big, 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 until it feels like there is no room for anything beside it. For I tell you that what was hid must come to light. And we all have a light inside us. And sometimes it's the very thing we've been taught to be most ashamed of. And if you have a light, do you hide it in a closet? No! You bring it out into the open where everyone can see it and be glad it exists to shine in the world. That's the truth about it. The more you hide it, the stronger it becomes and the more obsessive it becomes. And these poor, poor souls, that's their life, is trying to deny who they are. And the hatred and the suffering that causes inside them, they project onto the rest of the world. Something else Queen Jesus says, bless you if they persecute you for being who you are, because it means you are bringing about change. And bless those who persecute you too, for hatred is the only thing they have. And it doesn't amount to much, and they will lose it in the end. For no matter what they say or what they do, they cannot stop the change that is coming. And one day, we will all be free.
That's really very moving. Only since you brought her up. What do you think Queen Jesus would say to J.K. Rowling if she could?
Bless you. You're all right. Please stop hurting yourself. Please stop. You don't need to hurt yourself. Because when you stop hurting yourself, you'll be able to stop hurting other people. And that means they'll stop hurting you.
It's sad as well, and I'm sure you feel this too, but just on a personal note, largely because of J.K. Rowling, it's sad to see Scotland dragged into the middle of all of these debates in the UK, because as you say, Scotland has been so good on these issues for actually a very long time.
It's very progressive.
Very progressive place, and it just makes me so upset to see it dragged down into the mud of all of this. It doesn't deserve that.
No, we don't deserve that at all.
Texas, see, I'm from Texas. Texas gets dragged down into the mud a lot, but it often deserves what's coming to it. Scotland, I just think we could leave it alone.
I was touring Queen Jesus around the States last year in June.
Last year?
Yeah.
Wow, was it as recent as that? How was that?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Where did you go?
Well, I started off in Massachusetts,
Yeah?
which was very safe. I was in Boston Cathedral. That was incredible.
Wow. Do you always, wherever you can, do you perform in sacred spaces in churches?
Well, I am now.
Right.
Theatres were too frightened, and so we would take it all around, everywhere, wherever we could go. The thing about churches is they're cheap. You know, I can do it in a church. I can do it in a church because, you know, it's this incredible space. So I was invited to do it in Iona Abbey.
Where is it?
Iona, it's off the west coast of Scotland.
Oh, right. Great. Sorry, I thought we were still in the States.
No, now we're in Scotland.
Gotcha.
But some people from the States came and saw me there, and they said, "You've got to go to the States. Got to go there." Took a train down from Chicago to Illinois, a place called Carbondale. It's the most southern part of the North in the Civil War.
Oh, interesting.
Fascinating. And now it's a kind of little liberal enclave surrounded by Trump supporters, a little island.
Those dynamics persist from the Civil War.
From the Civil War.
That is fascinating.
It's fascinating. This place, Carbondale, people are enslaved. That was their first port of call. And now it's a sanctuary town for trans people running and fleeing places like Texas. So history is repeating itself in America at the moment. This church was a beautiful church, had a huge window which looked out of a meadow. This church, they had a little sign at the door, which was a picture of a gun with a kind of line through it saying, "No guns." And they said, well, we've got to put that up. Otherwise, people would feel they have the right to bring a gun into the church. And the congregation had all received training as to what to do if a shooter invaded them. They were a bit scared because for the service, they had to sit with their backs to this window because they were afraid that a shooter would come. As I was performing, I was looking out there and I was thinking, fuck, you know, if this could happen. But they had brave, unarmed people in high-vis jackets patrolling the church when I was performing. The pastor had a panic button by her pulpit.
Wow.
That connected directly to law enforcement if it was necessary. And so to perform Queen Jesus under those circumstances was incredible because we all knew, we couldn't really publicize it very much because if haters heard about it, they wouldn't just turn up with placards, they would turn up with guns. And that made the work incredibly important. And the people, I mean, to be a progressive pastor in the States right now is to lay your life on the line. I was so moved, and it made me aware of how important my work is, just to be there and to give testimony. Just, it's quite old-fashioned, but to say, here I am.
What do you think it is about that show in particular that makes it such a lightning rod for protest? Because I feel like all trans artists and all queer work can expect a certain amount of resistance and a certain amount of pushback. But Queen Jesus is fairly unique in the way, and is it because it has developed a reputation as something that gets pushback?
Christianity, the figure of Jesus, is actually at the center of the Western world. I mean, you know, we tend to think we're a secular country, but actually Jesus still is at the heart of everything. The Jesus that I was brought up with was obviously a white bloke, but he was the very best human being that ever was. That's what I was taught. And if you're transphobic and you find a trans woman, and trans women are the very worst people, worse than gays, worse than everything. So if you find a trans woman portraying Jesus, that is the most enormous affront. And I can remember the Archbishop of Glasgow said, it is hard to imagine a greater affront to the Christian faith than this show.
Not war.
No, not war, not priests abusing children.
Yeah,
no,
I want to go closer to home.
None of that. But for a trans woman to portray Jesus is the worst thing you can possibly imagine.
I think that shows a real failure of imagination.
I think so. Well, I think so too. And so that's why it's incredibly important and incredibly powerful now to be taking Jesus to churches.
Oh my God, I just heard.
What are you working on now? Where's your focus looking forward?
Well, at the moment, I'm still doing Queen Jesus in St Mary's Cathedral in Edinburgh during the Fringe, which is fantastic. What I'm writing at the moment is a new show for St Mary's Cathedral. I'm working with the bell ringers.
No! Wow.
Yeah, I'm working with the bell ringers, and they are going to play handbells.
I love a handbell.
And I shall be doing the words, and they will be ringing the bells.
I used to be so jealous of the bell ringers at church growing up. They took it so seriously. They just don't look like instruments. They don't look like something that should produce this very delicate sound, and it's so fun.
Beautiful.
So will you perform as a part of that piece as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
great.
be in that piece. I'll be there. We'll be under the big bells.
Wow.
In the centre of the cathedral. And I want to write about aging because, nobody writes about it. This is such an ageist society.
Absolutely.
Nobody writes about it. And yet,
And it's in the queer community as well, I think.
oh, God, because you're supposed to be young and gorgeous.
Exactly, in a sense of aging out of your ideal queer era. But actually, how insulting. Like, what a privilege to grow old, having lost a whole generation not too long ago.
Yeah.
We very quickly have forgotten what a privilege it is to live a little longer.
Yeah, and I think I felt it very strongly this morning. I thought, I'm old. I'm 75. That's not a bad thing. In fact, that's a very wonderful thing, and I'm very proud. I want to write something, somehow. It's very difficult in theatre just now because the funding is so bad and theatres don't want to know me up in Scotland. And so I write a Substack because I need to write. Mm-hmm. I just need to. I can't stop myself.
You have so many plays to write.
I know.
How do you do it?
I don't know, love.
It sounds
I tell you, I learned to write very fast.
Okay.
I finally got a commission from the Traverse Theatre in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited. I'd been signing on. I stopped writing. I'm not going to sign on. I'm going to live as a writer. I would drive my eldest daughter, Bex, to nursery. And then I wrote from about 9:30 till 2:30. And I did that from January through to June, by which stage I'd written the play. And during that time, all the money had gone, all of it. And I hoped I was going to make a bit more money from royalties, but there weren't any. This show had been a huge hit. I'd been invited to 20 international festivals, everything had gone right with that play, but there was no money from the royalties because it was such a small theatre.
Yes.
Meantime, I had spent half of the commissioning money for a new play I was supposed to be writing, and I had nothing. I had to go back on the dole. And I thought, this isn't going to happen again. And I'm not going to bring my children up in poverty. I decided I wanted to earn the same as a school teacher. Seemed quite reasonable.
Yes.
And I did my calculations and I worked out I would have to write 5 plays a year. But that meant that I was going to have to learn to write really fast.
Yeah.
And somehow through translating, through adapting novels, through turning stage plays into radio plays, and every now and again, I would get a little residency or something. So I learnt to write really, really, really fast. Not because I'm a particularly clever person, but because I had to earn a living. And that means that now my list of plays, there's 113.
113.
113. That is a record I'm very proud of.
Hello, can I take a message?
So I've been trying to leave people at the end of every interview with something they could do to support trans performance or trans folks more broadly. So writing to your MP or donating to someone's gender affirming care fundraiser. Do you have any suggestions?
I write to my MP. I've got 2 MPs. I've got my member of the Scottish Parliament, and I wrote to about the fact Parliament toilets were changing. Mm-hmm. He hasn't replied, actually. But my Westminster MP is a quite notorious transphobe.
Who is that?
Tracy Gilbert, that's her name. Lovely replies about Palestinian rights, about the shocking disability changes. She's Labour. My last letter was, thank you. Lovely to see you on the Pride March. I'm just also writing about my concerns about the gender recognition, all that stuff. And she hasn't replied yet, but, who knows? Did I offer to meet her? I hope I offered to meet her because it's very, very important to me to try to end this awful war between feminists and trans people because...
I wouldn't even call it a war because it's not like there's 2 sides fighting. It's a small subset of those people who have decided to pick a fight for no reason.
Thank you. For no reason at all. That's a lovely way to put it. Yeah. Susie, my late partner, the love of my life, we were together 33 years, who taught me all I know about feminism. She was the founder editor of the Biographical Dictionary of Scottish Women. She was amazing. Wow. And she would be so distressed by all this.
She hung up on me.
Joe, thank you for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I really could talk to you all day.
I could talk to you for hours as well. It's been lovely. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Joe. It's really just an honor. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thank you. I'm sure I will. And I'm looking forward to your next outfit.
Chatti Patti is a podcast from Curious Arts and Patti Boo Productions. This episode was recorded by Matt Jamie and edited by TJmov. This is part of our special series from the Trans Performance Now Festival, hosted here in Newcastle, with collaboration from Northumbria University, Curious Arts, and Live Theatre. You can follow Curious at Curious_Arts and me at Patti Boo Rae. And if you're looking to support the trans folks in your community, take a leaf out of Jo Clifford's book and pick a fight with someone who recently changed the signage on their bathrooms.
Chatti Patti.